All right, we're live with Ed Bear Jr. and family, Dustin and Destiny from Tennessee. Is it for Ren
Yep.
Fair from the
Yep.
van in the movie theater parking lot?
On location.
On location, in an undisclosed movie theater AMC in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Well, now you're just giving it away.
Oh no! Hurry, Mark.
So there's when is that going on all this coming week? And you have a lot of your art there, your Dragonlord stuff and beyond.
Yeah. So the Renaissance Fair starts this coming weekend. We get here usually around this time to set up. It takes us a week to set up. Like today, we've been working on setting up the tent, it's a real canvas pavilion tent. So it's a marquee, it's a big 20 by 20. So you got, I don't know, 36 ropes, 36 metal stakes. You got to hammer into the cement.
On a hill, in
on
the
a hill.
woods.
Yes. Getting attacked by every kind of prehistoric life there is here in Tennessee.
A standard living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for 14 hours, a lot of physical labor, keeps you in shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
well,
we will have Dragonlord, all the Dragonlord items and stuff. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Okay. Your inner light just died. Yeah, hopefully you don't kill the battery in that thing. But
well, then I guess we'll be staying at the AMC theater all
yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on short notice. I just said in the Discord we've been waiting on this for I think over 2 years now at this point, because I was in your Patreon for a long time, and the beauty of it was like one of the truly unique aspects of this project that I think probably especially newcomers are not aware of is that you painted I think all of these paintings through the Patreon, so we all got to watch that live with you and your family, Destiny doing the music and Dustin and others doing the filming, and you just working there for hours and hours, day after day, for weeks on end, it seemed like, every piece. So if people join your Patreon, I wanted to make sure I get to this. Can they go back and see the archives and watch you do that work in retrospect? Is it still published there?
The only ones that can see those links are the ones who were members at the time of the broadcast. Okay. However, there is new options that Patreon now offers where I can actually put a package together where it'll be nothing but the entire production and all of the hundreds of hours that I spent in creating the project. And I could literally load all of those episodes into a portfolio and person could actually subscribe to it. So I'm going to work on that and get that done.
Okay. Wow. That's exciting. Cause I think that, like I say, that was, truly special. And for like players and collectors of this game to see that process happen really elevates things and takes it to the next level with the connection as you're playing or collecting the game. And it makes these, your book too. People are asking about the book today too. They're like, hey, is that book still happening? So we'll have to get into that a little bit. But all those like immersive experiences are really going to make this special.
I'm just glad that people had a chance to see that interview from Sorcery Con because, I knew that when we did it, we discussed a lot of cool stuff that, I've been waiting almost a year. Well, not quite a year since November. But, since November, I've known that I've wanted people to know about those inside things, and the stories and the hidden objects and, all the things that are involved in how the Dragonlord creates its creatures. Why is it relevant to the card game, the mechanics, the play, how Eric and I work together on producing the synergy between the art, the storyline that I wrote, decades ago, and then how it's relative to the play. And it really does elevate an immersive effect because you've got background to each character and you understand better why it is that the mechanics flows. And that's called continuity. And in developing games, continuity is a big thing that we don't have a lot of, It's a lot of times that's sacrificed for either great mechanics or great art, but very rarely do you see the connection with a governing storyline. And that's that's one of the things that it works so perfectly through this whole project. Yeah. And then of course, Destiny's doing the music for it. So yeah, when we're doing the lives, she literally created songs for each and every piece that we did. Dustin, who is manning the live a lot of the times, especially when we did, I can't talk about it yet.
When we did the redacted.
Yeah. Redacted.
Live editing. Nice.
One of his favorites. And that's going to be a favorite of a lot of people. They don't know what it is yet. But very soon they will know what that is.
You're welcome, anyone who likes it. I pitched a big part of the idea.
Yes, you did.
You'll have to update us later. Yeah, so like speaking of like the back and forth process, you're saying like the story that you created years ago, you had those discussions with Eric. I know we've talked about this, but for people just maybe seeing this for the first time, those stories manifested themselves into like the game mechanic that was ultimately chosen by Eric to weave it into the game.
Yeah. So I had to give him the biographical backgrounds for each character. how they came into being, what was their strengths and weaknesses, how they were relative to the Dragon Lord himself, what their specialty, was, what is it that, what was their strengths and weaknesses, what were their specific powers, what relevance that they have within the storyline, the game. And it was amazing how so much of the character concepts, because again, my storyline is based on elements, but it's based on the creation of physical corporeal beings through the elements and the channeling of the life force or the energy soul specifically aligned with those elements, and how he then propagated life throughout multiverses, different universes, going through different portals, which is of course the piece that you see on the cover of the box. Now you can finally get a chance to see that box, and that's the shrine of the Dragon Lord. So those are actual portals. So all that stuff was very connected and relative, because as soon as Eric saw it, he's like, oh, this will work great for this particular mechanic because this teleports you to this, kind of thing. So there were examples of things like that happened, and it was fantastic,
Yeah, and so in the article today, I think the 3 pieces that were revealed, we saw at Sorcery Con, they revealed the artwork and the I guess concept cards basically, but now they've changed the titles. So was there back and forth with the titles too? Did you have names for all of your characters and have to kind of work that out with Eric to make it fit Sorcery?
Yeah, so the titles we call them operating titles, and for the purposes of releasing the titles at Sorcery Con, because the names had to be very specific to match up with my storyline, right? But at the same time, we wanted to be able to preliminarily release images, but not necessarily give away titles yet. We didn't want that, I guess, that spoiler aspect of it to come out. But more importantly, there were, I had specific spellings of the names within my characters and within my storyline. And some of the spellings were so close to another card or another existing thing that it was like, okay, can we change the lettering spelling on this? I said, well, there are 3 different alternative words for this same character that I've used so it could be any of the 3. Which one do you want? So there would be situations like that. In that case, it was actually 2 different ones. Then the rest of them were just like, they were trying to come up with really cool addendums to the titles, add-ons, extensions of the words. And I gave them the freedom to do that. I was like, hey, look, if you want to say something that's descriptive beyond it, as long as the character's name is there, so it's relative to my story. So each of the characters' names are correctly titled according to my storyline, but there are added words, or in some cases, the card is actually just a descriptive title. And that has happened. I think that happened in a couple of cards.
Yeah, I'm going to try to, let me see if I could call it up on the screen. It might be small for you guys on the phone, but just for the viewers here. Yeah, so I thought this was interesting because I think they just called this the Flame Dragon or something pretty generic at Sorcery Con, and now it's the Ignis Rex, and we have the Mix Ignis, which is a fire element mana resource type card, and so they preserve that name Ignis. Is that coincidental, or is that like the Eric adder that you're talking about?
That's actually, Ignis is the actual specific name of the Gatekeeper Dragon. The Harbinger of Fire is what he's known as.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so Ignis Rex is in fact the name of in the character. The other one you have there on the right hand side, which is the egg, the golden.
Cradle of Ethereum.
Yes,
Ethereum.
So Ethereum is the specific name of that dragon, but they are within the Aurum dragon kind. In other words, that's their what would you call it, Dustin? That's the category of species.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Aurum meaning gold. And rather than go with Aurum, because Aurum is also the name of a Bitcoin type thing, and that's stuff like that came up. It was like, well, when I wrote this story, there was no Bitcoin,
Yeah.
So things like that. He said, do you have, a specific name otherwise? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, that one particular dragon does have a future storyline, and, Ethereum is the name of that. So that, they were, that was the second wave of title. I don't know, I guess you would call it tightening, if you will. We wanted to get it, and his idea, it was his concept for the words cradle of, which I thought was such a cool word, because it's really a birthing chamber area. It's the base of the Dragon Lord's lair where all of the creatures are birthed from these egg type things, and it's at the very base of the crystal organ pipes, which create that resonating frequency, which brings in the energy. It opens the rift, but of course that's connected to what's up top at the very top of the Dragon Lord's lair, which is that crystal egg. And then there's a character within that crystal egg, which you guys have not seen yet and has not been revealed, and it won't be until Gen Con. That's a really cool key character. But yeah, so Eric said, I thought that was a great, whoever did come up with, I think it was Eric, the cradle of was such a cool concept to, add to that, rather than just calling it, the egg of the Aurum or Aurum egg, the Aurum dragon. So
Right.
he just said it's too long of a thing to try to call birthing chamber and all that stuff, So I thought that those were the examples of like where tweaks were made so that it would be still have the content of the actual name, but would be nice added added words to make it flow a little nicer for the card.
Okay. Yeah, that's so. And the other cool thing is the typeline text usually has meaning. Like in the Ignis Rex, it says a unique dragon of purifying flame. The Cradle of Ethereum says a unique relic and hope of an ancient race. So maybe you should save that spoiler for your book, but like that might be a good lead-in, because what is your book going to do? How is that going to round out kind of the project and give us more insight into your storyline?
Yeah, so everybody on my Patreon knows about the story. But that was kind of exclusive for them anyways. But yeah, so that particular, the lights went out again. This is going to keep happening because we're in the car.
The darkness of the dragons. We're in the dragon's cave.
The hope of the ancient race.
There we go.
The dragons want to go to sleep. Yeah, so that concept, that whole story, that particular dragon, which is it is a golden metallic chromatic dragon. They are extremely rare, the most powerful of all of them as of yet. So as the time period goes on at this point in time in the Dragon Lord's creatures world, this was the one that all of the other dragon not species, but variants, and all the parents and mothers would come to watch because they knew this was such a unique and special combination of elements. It goes beyond just the earth, the fire, water, spirit, air. It goes well beyond that, and it gets into combination alloys and things of that nature because it's designed to be that next level. How powerful, how strong it can channel different vibrations much greater than other of its own species. So yeah, this was an extremely special one and is a very powerful one in the world. Powerful in a almost like in my storyline, it's a hopeful, it's one that will basically protect, start to channel higher planes of existence and consciousness for all of the beings and creatures within the different realms. So it's kind of like a hopeful coming of something that's going to bring everybody together, so that's the long storyline, just a rough kind of outline of what that dragon is all about. It's an incredibly special moment. I wouldn't put it in comparison to the concept of being at the manger and Christ's baby born, but it's in that same feel of it's extremely precious, very important, and it unifies all of the creatures and species on the different worlds. So that's a lot. There's a little inside for you there.
Yeah, and it's cool because the mechanic says anytime during your turn you may look at your next spell. You may cast dragons from the top of your spellbook here for one less mana resource. So it's, like you say, unifying, bringing together, summoning other dragons, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So when in your book, is it going to read like a start to finish story, or is it like broken down by each individual illustration and character as kind of its own little like chapter section? Yeah,
there's a chapter dedicated to the Dragon Lord within Sorcery. And so it does go down into breaking down each picture. What's the scene all about? Where does these characters come from? What's its relevance to the overall world story? But it is not the actual long book story. See, the art book is a compilation of everything I've done for 47 years. There's no way I could put the entire Dragon Lord world storyline that I started in 2005 into that art book. So what I decided to do is just focus on the characters that I did for Sorcery, plus I'm probably thinking about 14 other characters within the storyline. I actually had hoped that we could have included those 14 other characters in Sorcery, but it didn't seem to be that was going to happen. So in any case, I think they're important to be included in the book, the art book. they're going to go in the art book anyway, so they might as well be identified as this was part of the original storyline. So the people who are following, you know, who are going to get this book and they're going to find out, you know, they're going to look at it and look for the Dragonlord story background. They're not only going to get the backgrounds complete about everything that was in Sorcery, the card game, but they're also going to see some of these other cards that did not wind up going into Sorcery. I was hopeful they would, but they didn't. And then at least they'll have a good peripheral understanding of why these characters matter and how they are interacting with the world in general. But it's not going to be an all-encompassing story. That book would have to be about 400 pages itself.
Okay.
Yeah, happen in my art book. So,
gotcha. Okay, so some people were also asking about the timing of the book, and I know it's kind of like a chicken and egg type thing because you can't. First of all, it's like a massive project, takes a lot of time for development. You've been working that in parallel, but you actually couldn't release it until this is out because it's going to reveal a bunch of the artwork which hasn't been revealed in the game. So do you have a sense for like the timeline or a goal or target for when you're trying to get that book out, or is it too premature to say?
No, Art, sure, you want to go? Okay. I was targeting GenCon. You know, when the release was going to be GenCon, that was my hope. However, there have been so many factors that have changed things, especially with the world international tariff issues, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I am printing in the United States regardless, and I'm paying 400% more than I would have done if I had printed in China, even with the tariffs. But I did that as a choice to keep my I've always printed with this one printer in the United States. He's printed all my art prints, independent graphics out of Pennsylvania, Scranton, Pennsylvania. They've always been just so good to me. You know, I know I'm sacrificing 400% profit, but I'm also looking at, I'm financing and paying for 17 people to keep jobs for another couple of weeks, you know? So I'm doing it not as a smart business person. I'm doing it just to, you know, help American businesses is what I'm doing. But I also am not desperate for profit either. So if I can just double my money, I'm happy, you know? This would not be a book I would be able to distribute through Amazon, not Amazon, but let's say Books A Million or something, because there's not enough profit in it because I didn't print it in China. If I had printed in China, like everybody else does, like every artist I know, they would have been like, hey, you could have done the book for $3.80 instead of $12, you know, or 14. So economically, I decided not to do any Kickstarter because I had seen multiple other artists. They all their Kickstarters just failed. It's been happening for the last 3 months because of the uncertainty of the economic structure, everything that's going on. So I knew that wasn't going to happen. But now I'm looking at financing, you know, $60,000 project out of my own pocket. And while I could do it, I didn't exactly want to pull that kind of money out, you know, and take it out of my resources for all these other projects that I work on. But I have to do that. But then there was the issue of, well, this needed to be tied together with how this thing is going to be distributed. And so this is a sliding scale right now because even I don't know how the Dragonlord Sorcery TCG game is going to come out. I don't know how it's going to be available. I don't know. I don't know any of that. So I don't know any more than anyone else does. This is the one part that the team at Eric's Curios has kept me completely out of the loop on. I had been under the impression and was hopeful that it was going to be a much more widespread, you know, world accessible product, but they really did decide that they wanted to turn this into a super high premium collectible, you know, not something that was that accessible, not that easy to, so a high-end tier. They called it a boutique, you know. And so and I understand that's what they wanted to do because they looked at it like, look at the artwork you're doing, Ed. You're doing 2 foot by 3 foot paintings, you know, bigger. And the stuff is worthy of being this kind of Fabergé egg type project, you know. But that being said, I don't know how well distributed this being. I'm not going to want my art book to be waiting on that to see how that goes. But at the same time, I don't want to release the art book before I know how the people are going to get access to the project, you know? And I wasn't going to have it available at GenCon. There's not enough room at the Sorcery booth, nor is it something. I can't drag enough books with me to sell. The weight would be too heavy.
Right. Yeah.
So I knew I wasn't going to be selling the art book at GenCon, but thereafter, I'm going to be like everybody else, waiting to see when this thing's going to get distributed, how it's going to get distributed. And so I'll try to kind of piggyback the wave of my art book availability based on when that starts to happen. So I don't know how soon after GenCon availability for this product in these box sets, how it's going to work, you know. So I'm shooting for sometime in August, September for my own release of the art book. So within a month anyways, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Here's a good question from Chris Myers from Bearish Acrylic Cases. I know you know Chris.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Steve from Bearish. So you're talking about how you couldn't possibly write the 400-page manuscript on the whole Dragonlord lore. Do you plan on doing something like that someday, or is that...
Well, I release it in my art book. My art book's only 240 pages, you know.
Yeah, as a separate project. I mean, is that something you might consider, or like no plan? Okay.
Yeah, but that separate project is going into much bigger places than just a book.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right, interesting.
Wait to see if that pans out, because if it does, that's a whole nother bigger picture here. I've been waiting for decades for this thing to become something much bigger than even a book. That's why I'm working on it. I kept it on the shelf. I've waited for the right moment, and you know me, I'm always about marketing and licensing and seeing how things can go. And
sure.
I do have a lot of connections in other types of markets that could utilize this storyline and make this into something even bigger. So I believe in doing it step by step, waiting that out. And I don't want to release the entire storyline unless I know it's going to be hitting the correct market. So of Sorcery, they don't need to hear the whole storyline, because I'm going to give them so much of a synopsis of everything they need to know about the cards and the images that they're going to play with. So they'll be fine. They'll be satisfied. The expansive world of the Dragonlord and that storyline is just going to be wicked cool to read about. But I want to also incorporate all the artwork that's in that. And that's a little over 100 pieces. And so I probably have maybe 10 or 15 more pieces to do to finish that entire full color. If I was to do, like, say, a full color book with, you know, dedicated images, a page of text, a page of image, make it in effect a graphic novel, it would be a little bit of time, probably another year. But I'm also trying to coordinate it with some other things so I can take it to the next level. So we'll see how it goes.
You're saying you did 100 paintings? So you did, like, you're saying there's 100. You only need 10 more, so you did like 90 paintings for this story? You did all those Did you sell the paintings, or like how did you afford to dedicate that amount of time to do something of that magnitude?
It took place from 2005 until now. So it took place over.
So is it a mix of, is it like stuff that you've licensed for use and sold as products in the past, or were those just like one-off paintings you did as kind of like this side project that was in the background?
No, they were projects that were all based in the world of the Dragonlord that I created. And then I utilized those images to make money in the meantime with licensing them for puzzles and all kinds of stuff. It's just nobody knew that part of the Dragonlord storyline.
Yeah, and that's super. That's what I was kind of getting at, because I think that's really cool, because it's kind of like putting a story to like your whole life or your whole career in art. You know, kind of merging like how that happened over the decades, right? Several decades.
You're right, Mike. Well, so Mike, when you're licensing, you have to own copyright. So a lot, especially from 1992 to 2005, a lot of my work that I was doing, a lot of the hours of my week would be dedicated towards game art, illustration for other companies that they would own the copyright to. So I had to make sure that I maintained my own intellectual property line in order to license, because I can't license someone else's art, right?
Sure.
Someone else's IP. So I made sure throughout the years that I would do images, paintings, based off of things that I created. So I started doing this in 2005, aggressively putting together the storyline, creating these images that would be, I knew they were part of the story at certain, intervals throughout the story. So every time I would do it, I would include that in the ongoing copyright, which was basically an unfinished, unpublished piece, and I would keep logging it in. Now, to the public, they would never know it came from the Dragonlord. A lot of time, I'll give you an example. From 2005 to 2013, they appeared in the Dragon calendar. That was at Barnes and Nobles and Borders.
Oh.
So people have no idea, but they are all part of that storyline. And
it's essentially like your own universe.
Yeah.
Like, you know how they have like the different universes of like all the different creations and storylines and stuff. The Dragonlord is sort of your universe of dragons, of the art that you've done. So it's nice and exciting to see part of that universe turn into this game. It's just
Yeah.
super exciting.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just dragons too. I mean, the Dragonlord created in the initial creations were early reptiles, much like dinosaurs were here, you know. And everything started off as the amoeba, just like in all things in evolution. But he did create mammals. In fact, there are mammals in the Kairos painting. You have to look hidden, you know, different hidden things.
Yeah.
So that's as far as I got. I didn't get beyond mammals, and we were going to get, and well, I shouldn't say that. That's not true. We did get beyond mammals. We actually started to get to the age of man. But in my storyline, much like if you look at my Dragonlord van, you do see a wizard, a sorcerer on the passenger side. And you notice that the sorcerer is controlling a crystal that entrances one of the dragons to do his bidding. So that's a crucial evolutionary point in change. That's on that's why it's multiverse, because in some planes of existence, humans started to corrupt those dragons and those other creatures who had been once benevolent and very intellectual beings. And they mesmerized them and basically enchanted them through these crystals. So there's an entire side storyline, multiple sides. So that's how so all the work that I've ever done in the last 20 years has all been based on the Dragonlord storylines.
So I'm impressed by the depth and complexity of the story. Like, did you grow up just reading like a ton of fantasy books and movies and things like that, or is this all just like from imagination from doing art over the years? I don't know.
So
Seems wild. I can't even like fathom like some of the stuff you're saying.
I honestly cannot read dialogue. I do not read fantasy. Ever read fantasy art, fantasy books. I read manuals. Science journals. I read anatomical, medical, Frank Netter. I study things to learn things. I'm all about how do I better understand and expand my abilities to visually create things, you know, that capture imagination. So I don't read for enjoyment. I read for information. And I also have always made this decision from 1982 on. My whole perspective on creating art that gives you an identifying recognition for what you do. The most important thing is to be different and unique. And I hated to be influenced by anyone, not another artist, not an author. I wanted to make sure that I stayed away from ever being influenced by anybody else. So I deliberately didn't read these things, and I didn't get. I would understand that they were out there. Obviously, Tolkien and Lord of the Rings were all. We're all going to expose to stuff like that, the classics, right?
Yeah.
But beyond the classics, I was like, no, I want to make sure that anything I do is unique to me. And the only way to do that is to not be influenced, to just observe nature, take a look at what's out there, know that there are certain common denominators in all things that are story-based, right? Fiction, and just keep those principles in mind and find a way to plug in my own interpretations of it. And ironically, a lot of the stuff that I wound up doing was more motivated by science and things that are actually happening to this day that I was writing about 25 years ago or coming up with in my mind. And it's like, they're based on a lot of things that we go through as human beings. You know, it's just kind of like it's running the gauntlet of life. And I just kind of use that as my framework for everything that I do creatively. You know, as long as one of the things that I'm most known for is taking these mythical creatures, dragons, you know, griffins, whatever they are, and putting them in positions that are very humanoid, you know, that are relatable, that are not expected. They're not beastly. They're not these, you know, they're not like Game of Thrones type style dragons. These are, you know, you could sit down and have a coffee and a conversation with these things.
Yeah, even the ones you did, you know, for Magic like 30 years ago were very sophisticated. And as you were talking, it reminded me of like I was watching your Patreon one time and you were painting, and I was like, you know, are you looking at some kind of reference image or like how you doing this? And you're like, no, it's nothing there. And I think Dustin like showed your whole studio. And you're like, see, he's looking at nothing. You're like, it's all from the imagination. You just studied hours and hours of anatomy books, and like it's just amazing how when you paint, you just know exactly what to do, and it's just kind of like incredible that the complexity and the detail is like. I mean, I got a couple of pieces behind me here. The Dragonlord, the Kairos especially, with all the hidden Easter egg type elements you have. It's just so like precise and detailed. You never see that on trading cards typically. It's really next level.
And that's what's fun about, when you include that stuff. A lot of the artists will say, but Ed, why are you wasting your time doing that when it's never going to be seen on a card? I'm like, because I'm not looking at this as a dead end. It's not just going to be seen on the card. You're also going to hopefully sell art prints of it. Now, all of a sudden, the card that these kids play with, and I say kids, anybody plays with.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're going to be like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? There's hidden objects in this. What do you mean 88 different symbols on the books that are science, alchemy, astrology, astronomy? What? Now they're going to want to see that. So you make sure you have it available. It's like it opens up the Pandora's box of this art. It's like so many levels deep. That's what's fun. I was on, I love hidden object things. I spy for big kids. And so I try to hide things in everything I paint. I think that's what's so much fun. I mean, can you imagine when you have a product, and there goes the lights again.
But wait, it'll be like magic.
The Dragonlord brings the darkness.
Dragonlord
brings the light.
Nice.
But, it's so cool to know that you're playing a game, and now all of a sudden you can see the actual art in a larger format, and oh wow, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
And that's just another layer of fun,
Yeah. Yeah, so like in the packs, it's pretty interesting. We were all like speculating, wondering how they're going to package this, and it says in the write-up here, there's 13 functionally unique dragon-themed cards, and then so there's the 13 cards, and I think Chase confirmed in the Discord today that you'll get all 13 in non-foil. So it's like one pack in one box, 14 cards, 13, you get all the non-foils, and then there's one, what do you call it, a premium foil card. So it sounds like you just get one per pack. So to get all 14, I guess, or 13 is going to be pretty hard. So these things are going to be scarce and like likely valuable, and like you said, collectible earlier, because some people were frustrated recently and was like, well, it seems like they printed a lot of Arthurian legends and beta's been around a long time, where's the collectibility? And like there's always intrinsic collectibility in these sets, and now this is like an item that seems truly collectible, but it also satisfies the game players because they're going to have all 13 cards that they need to play. And they're uniques too, which means you could only have one in your deck, so they don't have to buy 4 boxes. Although I sent you that text message earlier, the guy said he needs one sealed, one for the non-foils to play with, and then he's got to chase the foils, and then he wants you to sign every one of them. So I think this will do well.
They designed this to be a collectible, a high-end collectible. They wanted it to be that Fabergé egg, boutique thing, and they wanted the same. They wanted to make sure everyone would be able to have all the cards, because it was only 13, so they had to make sure everybody gets them all. There was no other way to do the collation. They can't be rares and uncommon with such a small number of cards. Even if we doubled it, which I did offer them to double it, it still wasn't going to change unless we got into 100, 200 cards. So that was never going to happen. So this was going to be a collectible from the start. It was going to be difficult to get, but those foils you're talking about, which I believe, if I read correctly, it said they were holographic foil.
It says premium foil card, unless it says it somewhere else, but that's kind of how they have been in each of the sets to date. So I'm sure they did a video recently on their foil process. It's very meticulous, and you've talked about how Eric has like a great mind for aesthetics and art, and getting the concept just right. So a lot of attention to detail that really makes this game stand out in that regard.
Yeah, so those are going to be quite the challenge to get. What's going to happen, my speculation is going to be that it's going to be random scenarios where someone is going to get a particular box with a specific character. Let's say they get the foil version of the Dragonlord's Lair, right?
Yep.
And they're going to get another box somehow, or there's going to be someone nearby that's going to get the card they want. And they're somehow going to get a second box with one of the other ones that they've got. It's going to be duplicates like that. Then all of a sudden someone's going to go, well, I got 2 of these, but I know how difficult they are to get, so I'm going to throw them up online for whatever amount of money that's going to be, and it's going to be a amount. And then someone's going to have to buy these individually on the secondary market to be able to get all 13. That set is going to be thousands of dollars, no questions about it.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a big hit. So I wanted to go to the packaging now.
Oh,
so he called it very ridiculously retro. Retro, I think, is what he said. He's all about the alliteration. It seems we see that a lot in the typeline text. But it's got this like retro design. It looks like it's right out of the 1990s. It's kind of like when you open it up, it's kind of like a fairly simple, nice looking packaging. You see the Dragonlord popping right up. And I don't know if that's going to be like the outside of the pack. Some of this is sometimes just mock-up. Who knows if that's going to be a consistent image or if that's just the first card shown. But I wondered, like, on this logo here, did you design? What's that?
That's the real deal.
Oh, it's gonna look just like that.
I mean,
Okay.
that picture you've got might be a mock-up, but I've actually seen a video of the real thing.
Okay. Is
So
the logo here where it says Dragonlord? Did you design that, or did Eric design that?
So that was a great moment. So Eric contacts me because we knew the cover. I'm like, if I got to do a cover piece, it's got to be the Shrine of the Dragonlord. It's got to be the teleportation devices. You know, this what I call the monolith. And he goes, yeah, that's got to be the cover. And he goes, okay.
That's
so
awesome.
He said, this thing just reeks of ultimate 80s, 90s metal band. I said, oh yeah, it does. so I go that, you know, if we got to pick a logo lettering style font, we got to go with something totally metal, man. Total 80s, 90s metal. And he's going, yeah, I'm going to have to do that. So I'm trying to think how the next, I think he just went out searching, got some ideas, threw a couple of samples at me, and I'm like, yeah, I think this is the one. Yeah, he says, I think this is the one too. And then he created and fabricated the rest, you know. And that's when we were like, okay, how do we balance the lettering, like the D's in the dragon, and then the L being that capital, and then the D at the end, Lord, and you know, extend the bottom end of the font. So even the font is customized, but
Gotcha.
it was all about that classic 80s, 90s metal band. Now I'm not going to say big hair. It's definitely not big hair.
It's power metal.
It's power metal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, which is great because there's a lot of like metal album cover artists in Sorcery, so it's perfectly on point with that. It looks so cool, and I like how the some of the art aspects. It looks like these canvases that wrap around the side a little bit, kind of wraps around the side of the box.
Yep,
this looks great.
High-end box. I mean, that's the most high-end box. It's like a jewelry box that you would get when you spend like $10,000 on a bracelet. The thing. It's magnetic, I believe, on the side. I think it's got a magnetic flip.
It looks like it. Yeah, it looks almost like padded, like it's like one of those soft close, you know, nice seal.
Yeah, no, the box is super high end. It really did cost them a lot to produce this. This was a very very high end, expensive project to make.
Yeah, it's like a gift to collectors and art enthusiasts, I feel like, and I'm sure like the gameplay is going to be super cool too, but. It looks like truly collectible. Everyone's going to want one sealed and one to open and enjoy. So we got to get those bearish cases. Those are the bearish. Everyone's saying like, "Where's the bearish case?" So
Chris and I have been talking for the last, I don't know, since November.
Yeah,
and we're kind of in a holding pattern right now. You know, as everyone is, because you know we're trying to get some of this stuff manufactured here in the United States. I know Chris has got an option he's looking into. But all of those things change. You know, the current tariff situation has really screwed up a lot of stuff. So we're kind of in a whole pattern with that because it's got to be affordable. It's got to make sense. I have been talking about commissioning Chris to do a special bear case just for these boxes for me. And so let me just this will be the first time I'm releasing this information. I promised you that once we were able to get the announcement out and you guys could see the box, I could talk a little bit about this. So I have an arrangement that I'm going to be getting a certain select amount that I'm not going to reveal at the moment. But it's a certain amount of the product that I'm going to get. And those products are going to be the numbered box signed series. So I want to have those done with bears. I want to have those protected. So it's a nice premium. So you're talking about taking yet another level of unique collectibility. And how it's not going to interfere with this is that in every one of those boxes, I thought about how can I really step this up even that much further. And so I'm thinking about doing an ACO. An ACO is an artist original card art. So in every one of the boxes that they get with the bear collectible clear case, there's going to be a hand-drawn dragon illustration or some kind of illustration that's going to come within that box. And that's going to be sold at a much higher premium than anything that you're going to buy just the box. So it's really in itself a whole separate product. It was one of the things that Eric and I had to make an agreement on to say, look, if you're going to have any of the product, Ed, I can't have you just selling product. So how are you going to make it unique? And so I said, fine. Well, the way we're going to make it unique is whatever I buy, it's going to be numbered and it's going to be signed on the outside of the box. It's not something you're going to get from I'm not signing anybody else's box. So I'll sign the packs to the ends of the earth, but I'll sign the cards, but the boxes, those boxes will be reserved only for the ones that I'm doing which will be inclusive of an ACO card art.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
that's how I decide. That's how I offered. That's how I've been able to agree and comply with the contract agreement I have with Eric, so that my units are entirely separate from what the rest of the industry, what the rest of the inventory is, because I'm creating, in effect, a much higher upper tier product offering with them. So ACO card, the box will be signed and numbered, and then you'll also have, hopefully, a Bear special custom box with lettering and design work on it. That's for me. That's unique to me. So it'll be an Art of Ed Beer Jr. collectible version of the Dragonlord box.
Wow.
Yeah, but again,
people are going nuts in chat. They're all saying, "Take my money." So I think you got a home run concept there that's going to resonate strongly.
Yeah, so if I was a collector, I'd buy the box. I'd buy a box set to play, buy a box set to have me sign the cards with. And there goes the lights again.
Mm-hmm.
Quick, the lights off.
All right. And then I would buy one of my high-end collectible ones with the art. Because that way you get all, you get the three full spectrums of the product. But all of that, again, I don't even know when I'm going to get my share of the products. It's definitely going to be after GenCon at this point.
Actually, someone asked in the chat, because like for promo cards and box toppers and things, Eric did not do artist proofs. Are you able to say if there will be artist proofs for the Dragonlord Mini-set?
I can tell you that in my contract, I am guaranteed that I will receive 25 artist proofs of each of my cards. That's in my contract.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, in my case, because I had my Patreon members asking, I pretty much, I could probably have sold out of all 25 units of all 13 images. The thing is, I have to be realistic. How much time do I have in my life to create things?
Yeah.
I'm not going to sell the artist proofs without art on the back. Every single one have to be drawn. And how when I do my Patreons, I basically do one episode, 3 to 4 hours, and I paint a complete artist proof card during that time. So that would be how these things are going to get done. They're going to be, here's somebody that wants to commission me a piece. They're going to be a premium rate, because I get a premium rate when I do the MTG artist proof cards all the way. No matter what I do, it's going to be a lot more than anything anyone else is used to paying. But that's what I sell them for. I get that money. And when it comes to MTG artist proof cards, I have 50 or 100, depending on what series I did in what year. From 1993 to 2005, there was I did over 126 cards, and we were given, in the beginning years, 100 copies. So there's a lot more of those available. Many I have sold out, but it's been 35 years. Yeah. But the sorcery cards, my God, only 25. Yeah. They're more harder to get and more collectible. And so I'm going to focus all my attentions on making sure that my sorcery people get those artist proof cards. So I'm actually wrapping things up when it comes to MTG. I'm not taking on any new commissions for artist proof cards. I'm pretty much booked until the end of the year. So I just said, after that, once I know I'm going to have my artist proof cards in, I will make it available. I'll tell your guys, I'll inform you as well and say, hey, I got the artist proofs. I'm now go ahead. Now we're going to offer this artist proof card. The bidding starts at such and such. I'm literally going to be bidding before I even do the art, because I've already got offers to do each. I've got several people that want the whole set, and they all want them painted. They know my standard rates. They run between 1,500 and 2,500. So these are not going to be things. And yet I've already got more than enough to sell every single one of them out. So knowing that I have that kind of demand, I'm probably going to have to do an auction type thing, starting at a base level. Like say I'll start at 1,500 and say, hey, who wants it? Because when you have more demand than you have cards, that's kind of what you have to do.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'll probably call you up.
It's all about demand.
Yeah, I'll probably call you up and say, hey, look, man, can you handle this? Because I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, so will they get like an opportunity to? So you mentioned like a cool thing. They'll get to watch you paint some of these in your Patreon, right? If they're Patreon members.
Yeah, even if they're not a Patreon member, I have a lot of collectors who are not Patreon members of mine who have commissioned me to do everything, paintings, canvases. But when it comes to the artist proof cards for even at Magic, like recently I did Pokemon on the back of some of, like, there was the horned turtle that I had done for, I think it was, 7th edition. And they had me do a, what is it?
Blastoise.
Blastoise. And so I did that whole entire painting film for 4 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that.
Get to watch the whole thing being done, and then
Yeah.
that stays up on YouTube on my channel in a private link forever. I don't take it down, so they can download it and have it as a document, an archived document of the actual creation of the painting. But I do that as a service to all of my collectors, because I am bored if I paint by myself. I love it when I can be with a group of people and I'm painting and we're chatting, we're talking. It's fantastic,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I want to link your Patreon here because a lot of people are asking, and it really is a very unique, great experience because, like you just said, you paint full art paintings. We saw the Dragonlord paintings. You might have a special package for that. They'll get to see artist proofs from Sorcery, from Magic, other card games. You do Pokemon concepts, like all kinds of awesome things, and they always look top notch. 3 to 4 hours of work, and it's amazing what you can accomplish in that time. The incredible detail.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be doing a Pokemon. My son Dustin here was like, "Oh no, Dad, we got to do
He
it."
told me, someone commissioned me to do that. Like, I'm on the case.
And what was the other one?
Yeah.
Dragonite.
Dragonite
Yeah.
have with a binder
Mm.
of Pokemon cards in the same pose. Someone was
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Amazing.
fun too because it's also sort of a learning experience. So we've actually had a lot of people like that follow up from the shows that are interested in doing art themselves. So that's another thing about the Patreon. You get to come in, we're super silly, super crazy, but you also get to ask, like, what do you think of this sort of technique and how would you go about this? We actually have one that just joined that is an artist themselves. And so it's nice too, because not only do you like create a community in the Patreon, but for those that are pursuing art themselves, keeping the traditional art alive, it's nice to see that wave of people coming in too, being like, oh my gosh, I get to learn this while I'm having fun. So that's like a whole other layer, to our broadcast.
You bring up a good point, Destiny. We met Kirby.
Yep.
I remember Kirby.
Yep. Fantastic artist, my goodness.
Yeah, met at Steel City Comic Con, and I suggested join the Patreon, and I know for a fact there was some questions asked about different process and technique that while I was doing the last that was the Poe piece, the Edgar Allan Poe, the Raven. Yeah. So that's because I mean the whole time I'm working, I'm explaining what I'm thinking, how I'm doing it. So
it's very educational, very silly, and a great 3 to 4 hour video to have playing on the side while you have to do all of your remote
I've
work.
done it many times. Yeah, it's fun. It is a lot of fun because you guys all have like great personalities and are very like high energy and just like having a great time.
Yeah,
it's basically like one of the highest quality like podcasts you can get.
Yeah, it's extremely entertaining
we're
on
watching
multiple levels.
Yeah, we do.
We try to make it fun.
We get silly. We do. We do our dances. We have our opening dance and our closing dance. And
Oh, yeah.
We'll always theme it based on the holiday.
Yep.
Yep.
Italian when we had St. Joseph's Day, we did that.
St. Patrick's
St.
Day,
Patrick.
everything was green.
We do.
Yep.
We go for the full night. Yeah. And in the chat, the most lively, active chat we have. Any of our lives, if you go back and we'll look at them, there's like literally, I think we hit 1,700 comments in an episode where they're just talking back and forth.
Yeah.
We probably will have 15 to 20 members that tune in at a time
Mm-hmm.
to the live.
Yeah.
And boy, they go at it, and they all know each other. They become great friends.
Yep.
I'm very blessed to have that platform and to be able to do that in this time period. When I started, it was because of the shutdowns. Before that, I was always in person.
Yep.
I used to have class in person, but now this has been a great opportunity to connect with people all over the world.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
we have
absolutely.
people from other countries too, so it's nice to be able to have that connection. Yeah.
But anyways, back to the Dragonlord set. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
comments that people were making. They were so just amazingly kind responses, but more importantly, exciting. They were like, "Oh yeah, man," because I've had to keep everything under NDA. I haven't been able to talk about it. Couldn't talk about the release of when it was going to be. That it was going to be GenCon and none of that stuff. And the fact that I'm returning to GenCon after being out of it almost 15 years. It's over 10 years. We're debating whether it was 13 years ago or 14. We can't figure that out. But so I just said, whatever the case is, it's over a decade. And I wouldn't have any reason to come back if it wasn't for Sorcery. It just wouldn't. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't want to keep you more than an hour. I don't want to drain your battery in the van too. So we're at like 50 minutes. We got about 10 minutes if you want to hang in. I did want to touch on GenCon and what like fans can expect when they see you in a few months at GenCon. Like, do you have like a vision of what your role will be there with the Sorcery team?
Yes, so I'm definitely going to be at the table. Jeff Menges, he's made his.
Yep.
He's there. Jeff and
Mhm.
I are great friends. I love this guy. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be a
Yeah.
phenomenally pleasant, wonderful environment to come over to our table at the Sorcery booth. We're both going to have, obviously, art prints for sale. I'll have not only the ones that I had at Sorcery Con, but the whole 9 yards. I mean, you're going to get to see everything.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nice.
But also, I'm going to have something that's unique and special that will have not been seen until GenCon.
Mm.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
So there's
Okay.
going to be a special offering that is been done, hand painted, but it's only available at GenCon.
Wow. Okay.
So there's going to be something there. It's going to be a special version just for GenCon. And that's connected to something I can't talk about, but that you guys will be finding out, all of you, very soon. There's a lot
Okay.
more. There's a lot more than this coming out, guys. And it isn't just the, oh, here's how much it's going to cost, and here's where it's coming out of, and here's how I can get the product. Oh, no, no, no. There has been so much stuff that I haven't been able to talk about that we've been working on in the background for the last 6 months. And you don't even know it, Mike.
Okay.
So, you know,
I don't even know it, but I can't see.
Yeah. Wow.
so
That's exciting. Yep. The reveals are finally coming. You know, it was a slow first quarter, but like the last several weeks, you could tell the team's been ramping up. There's been some Gothic spoilers. So it's kind of like reverse. We got Gothic first. Now we're flipping to Dragonlord. Maybe we'll go back to Gothic after Gen Con, but
Yeah.
it seems like Dragonlord season is really heating up here.
oh, man.
After 2 years, right? It's been over 2 years, I think, since you started.
Correct. Yes. And
Yeah,
you're
insane.
in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, 3. It's just going to be nonstop, but it's going to be not redundant. And it isn't going to be, oh, here's a new reveal. No, there are entirely unique new things that have been done that
Wow.
go out to a much wider audience that you guys are it's going to blow your mind. And that's all I'm going to say. So I'm throwing the teasers out because I want you all to be paying attention to what's going to be happening and being announced in the coming weeks.
Yes.
Because it's going to
Wow.
be a huge opportunity for some people. You know, that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, nice.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'm having like intense FOMO not going to Gen Con now. So hopefully, maybe we get you out to Sorcery Con or something else, or come to one of your fairs. Do you do the Renaissance fairs like through the fall and winter season too, or is it mostly just kind of like
Yeah.
a spring and summer thing?
Yeah, so I'm in the Michigan Renaissance Festival starting August 16th, and then that runs through till the end of September.
Yep.
And then I will
Oh.
be at Ohio from the Labor Day weekend, September, what is it, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, right through to the end of October, just about. Yeah. So I'm at Ohio and Michigan. The Midwest is kind of where I am for the Ren Fairs. And I'm in between the openings and closings of each of those shows. So Tennessee here, I'll be doing live demonstrations. I'm actually doing drawings on playmats, nickel bolus playmats, actually, the whole time. So assuming there's good weather, we're hoping
Yes.
good weather. But yeah, I'm going to be here, and I've also I've got a bunch of new products. Got 21 new products. Plus, I've got my the coins. I've got the Goliath coins that have done absolutely fantastic. Thanks to you, Mike.
People are receiving them now. They're showing them in the Discord and on Facebook and stuff. So you're gonna get more orders, I'm sure. Because like, I was shocked when I saw your video. Obviously, like we did the YouTube live on that like a week ago. But when I got them in person, they seemed like they were twice as big as I envisioned. Even after seeing it in video and pictures, you just can't get an appreciation for it until you have it in your hand.
They are
They're
beautiful,
awesome.
heavy, and they're deep. The relief, as you've seen, the sculpture relief, so much thicker and deeper than I imagined myself. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they are great
Awesome.
stuff. I am down to like less than 50 left. And I can tell you today
We're
alone,
not gonna
That's
have any
insane.
video.
Out of 200, that's incredible. Wow.
somebody had to be showcasing that they received their orders because we shipped out a ton of orders.
Oh, it's been going on like past few days. People are posting it everywhere.
Our phones were dinging all day today with orders as well.
Nice.
So, and again, I wish we could get some more of those right now, but I don't think that's going to be real. Well, it can't. They are on. Those are one of the things that we cannot make in the U.S. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
At least not at this point. And so those were from China, and nobody's getting anything from China right now. So those are extremely rare at the moment, and very good.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I always appreciate you coming on. You guys had a long, busy day, so thanks a lot for coming on short notice. We'll have to do it again once there's more news. But yeah, certainly you're welcome anytime, and there's never a shortage of things to talk about. So
You got
it. Yeah, appreciate it. It's great seeing all three of you. Hope you have a great fair coming up here, and we are excited about the teasers.
Yeah, and before you go, Mike, just so that folks, if they want to ask any questions beyond the ones I can't answer, but if anyone wants to specifically ask a question about, you know, anything that I've already revealed, or like how do I order something, you know, even the latest projects the products that are on my website, or if they have a question that's, you know, specific to GenCon, you know, what am I going to, you know, am I going to be signing other cards? What's my policies? We didn't get into those details, although the guys at Eric's Curiosa know what those policies are. Jeff and I are trying to work together, so we kind of are comparable in some ways in what we do. So our offerings at the tables at GenCon are going to be within that same reasonable comp. I personally am trying to work it out so that, you know, you buy a print, you're going to get whatever you want signed when it comes to the sorcery cards. But I obviously would have to do some kind of a charge or an arrangement where you buy something, you get other stuff, because there's gonna be a lot of people that haven't seen me in 15 years that are gonna come in and they're gonna say, hey Ed, can you sign this stack of 100 magic cards? And I'm just, oh no, I can't, you know. But they're for sorcery, guys. I mean, I really am. But I will sign cards, but I just have to work out where, you know, I'll sign 4 cards for every print you buy or something like that.
Yeah.
So I have all that information and I'll be posting it, but they can reach me at my Facebook pages, the fantasy artist Ed Beard Jr. or my personal one, Ed Beard Jr., and it says Dragonlord. And that's how they can find me on Facebook, and they can just message me and ask any questions, because there'll be some people who say, Ed, I do have some old school MTG cards I'd love you to sign. If I bring it over to you at the sorcery booth, will you do it, and what is it going to cost me? And I'll answer all those questions.
And if anybody doesn't have Facebook, they can just go to our website, edbeardjr.com. We get all the notices there, so you can send us a message too in case you don't have the book of the face.
All right, thanks. Someone just said they just bought the coin, so you got 49 sets left.
Awesome.
Huge.
All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, appreciate it again. We'll talk soon, okay? All right, take care. Thanks, everybody. See ya.